Okay, so we're at chapter 47, which is the continuation of the type of love that we started to learn about in chapter 46, which was the mirror love, the love like water, the way that water can be a mirror when it's nice and flat. So the idea of this love is that it's universal and not dependent on your cognitive ability or your spiritual disposition or your, if you're a tzaddik or if you're not a tzaddik. It's for every single Jew with the specific, and we'll learn about that inheritance aspect of this love. And it's really, really natural. Just like water's nature is to reflect what is being shown onto it, mirror's nature is to reflect. Our souls, what's going on a soul level, is that our souls are divine, and they have they respond to the stimulus of love from God. They have a predisposition to respond. It's a very natural, it's kind of like a baby. Like when you show a baby, there's certain reflexes, like when you want to get the baby to eat, if you do this, right, you get them to root. I use one against them sometimes when I needed to give them medicine or whatever. You poke their mouth this way and I can't help it. Their mouth opens up. It's just what happens. It's like a reflex. So basically our souls have this natural reflex to respond to the stimulus of God's love, because it's like it's made from the same, it's a piece of God, so it speaks the same language. Kind of like the baby, right, is like predisposed to respond to the mom's love of stimulus, of love that she's showing it. It's like there's DNA, there's hormones, there's stuff that's going on to make that very, very, very natural. We will mention that we can consciously override this if we want to, but it's in our nature. So we'll get there. We'll mention that again.
How do you recognize the love from God?
So that's a very good question, and that's a question that we're going to discuss today, and we started discussing it in chapter 46 already, where we recognize that as much as it's natural, we're not always conscious to it. Because we're not always conscious to the spiritual planes of what is actually happening. So it's kind of like when, with anything, with the mechanics of our world or anything going on, it may be going on without our awareness of it. And then when we teach this to the preschool kids in Judah, and we teach them about in these weeks when we're learning the stories of Bereshit, of creation, and Abraham discovering God, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today, with divine providence. So we teach them about the idea that Hashem is everywhere, but we don't want to be dogmatic. So we bring out, like, let's say, magnets, and we bring out, like, wind, like give them like a straw and a cotton ball and have them blow the cotton ball. And what we're showing them is, how does the cotton ball moving? Are you pushing it? Do you see the mechanism? Or is it through wind, which you can't see, but it's there, right? Or magnets that stick somehow. What's making them stick? Something that you can't see. So it opens up their minds, hopefully, to be aware of things, Hashem, who is here, although we can't see him, which is what Abraham discovered on his own. And this is actually right here in the chapter. Because Abraham discovered this on his own, he grandfathered this into to his children's DNA. So he wasn't given, like, he wasn't born with this awareness. He discovered it. All around him, he was, raised by idol worshipers. That's all they knew. That's what they did at the time. And he discovered, with process of elimination, is the sun, Is it the moon? And using his logic, you realize that it can't be any of them. It has to be something beyond that. And the chapter talks about Abraham's travels being symbolic of him traveling and working through this discovery and taking it to the next level and to the next level and to the next level until he became, and with all his 10 tests, until he became a chariot for God. And we learned about this idea of a chariot being like a vehicle for God's will, specifically in the flavor of chesed, which is what we learned about. So Abraham was the first to really become a chariot with his, consciously. And what happens from then on is that when we're born as children of Abraham, we don't have to work at it. We have it as an inheritance. And that's what every single time we say the phrase Adonai Eloheinu, which is part of every blessing, which is part of the Shema, what we're doing is we are recognizing that God is our God, that we have this relationship. He's not a God, he's our God. And it's like a term of endearment. It's like when you say my Musia, my Rachalea, my Tzila, like my kids, my Mendel, right? I don't want to exclude anybody. I don't want to. But like when you say my somebody, they're yours because you're connected. You're recognizing a very deep relationship. So we have this naturally in our DNA, and all we need to do is tune into it. But what happens, all right, I'm going to do it a bit out of order. So what happens that, like we just mentioned, we're not always conscious to it. And more than that, if somebody wants to, if a child wants to shut themselves off from the natural love of a parent for whatever reason, they could do that. We can put up barriers. We can, prevent or put obstacles from feeling this natural reciprocal response. But what happens if we allow it in? And this is what the chapter is all about. The chapter is all about allowing the love that is happening and being poured forth towards us to be received. So we're going to come back to the topic of this. How do we do that? How do we tune into that? But in the meantime, another theme that we mentioned in last chapter 46 was to recognize there was a part of the analogy. Frankly, I didn't connect to so much, but it's there about this love that's coming from Hashem to us through various different. We're so different. We're so removed. We're so finite, and Hashem is so infinite. And the visualization that's used is like a king to like a beggar, dirty, very dirty beggar on the street. And the reason for this symbolism, because I don't want to get carried away, and the reason for it is to recognize that Hashem is reaching through many boundaries and barriers. And why is that relevant? Because what did Hashem do? What was the major thing that Hashem did for us that reflects this the imagery is taking us out of Egypt? Because what Hashem did to take us out of Egypt is he took us out of slavery. Now, what is slavery? What is the state of being a slave? What is that all about?
You lose your free will.
You lose your free will. And okay, so with the Egypt, with the main event, we have the story. Hashem took us out of slavery. We were in a very low place. We had zero autonomy. We were kind of, pobrecita.
We were belonging.
But he also the
Yeah.
one put us there to begin with.
Yes, he did. It's his own fault, But he did that for a reason. He did that so he could take us out. He did that for this exact experience, so that he could take us out, and he could exalt us and become his only child, like his child. And how did he show us his love to the extreme degree? With giving us the Torah, 7 weeks later. And the Torah, as we discussed in chapter 46, is the deepest expression of love and connection. Right, because the Torah is is one with God. It's his internal self. It says it in the Tanya. It's almost like Hashem gave us himself. He took us, he's like, you slaves, you're going to be mine, and I'm going to give you myself. I'm going to give you the epitome of me. I'm going to open you up to a relationship of serious intimacy. And the love that we feel from experiencing and receiving this closeness, especially when we came from so far, is very powerful and universal. And we've learned about the mitzvahs being like a hug, and the Torah being like a kiss. And today, in this chapter, it explains a little bit more about the mitzvahs being Hashem enclothing his will into action. So it looks like an action when we're told to light Shabbat candles or whatever mitzvah it is. It looks like it could be emotionless even action, but it's actually clothing for Hashem's will. And therefore, when we do that action with our limbs, we are embracing, because our clothing and bodies make contact with Hashem's clothing in embrace. So that's the symbolism of a mitzvah. But where are we going with this? Chapter 47 is actually quite a short chapter, so we don't have that much longer. But I think the main part of this chapter is here. This happened, we were brought out of Egypt. Okay, so we had this amazing experience. We were brought from the depths and raised up to be Hashem's child, and to be also, like last week we learned, to be married to God, right? There's different ways we can describe our relationship. But what about today? What about all the time? And now we have the famous, one of the 12 verses that the Rebbe taught that wanted the kids to learn is this one. This is the third one. And it's in our handouts on the very, very top, on page 2 out of 6. V'hine, and behold, bechol dor vador, in every generation, bechol yom vayom, the Rebbe's adding his, and every day, chayav adam lirot atzmo keilu hu yatsa hayom mimitzrayim. It's from the Haggadah, if you might remember. There's a song, bechol dor vador. You know that one?
Yep.
Chayav adam lirot. So when we read the Haggadah, the story of Egypt, we're like, why is this relevant to us? Well, it is so relevant that every single day we are commanded, chayav, we're commanded to see ourselves as if we are leaving Egypt today. So what does it mean to leave Egypt today and in every moment, every day? So
To raise yourself up, do better, seek closeness to God.
exactly. And we learned so much. I mean, this is so relevant right now with being about to meet the hostages. And we learned so many stories about the Holocaust, how the Jewish spirit is not enslavable. And we always have said about our peoples that they can enslave our bodies but not our souls. We're not, once we left Egypt, it's over. We're never slaves again. Yes, and that's what it means that we came from a very low place. In Egypt, we did have a slave mentality. we were slaves. We identified as slaves. That was what we left. That's what God took us out of. He took us out of that mentality, never to return.
But we were slaves in Rome, the Colosseum.
We were slaves in the Holocaust. We were slaves, the hostages cooking for their captors without any choice. We were slaves many times.
Every day.
Yes, and that's another, and I was getting to that. We're slaves to our iPhones, right? We're slaves to our routines.
Yes, our needs.
Our job.
We're slaves to, to the grapes we have to consume.
So we have that chance to connect without, it's a choice, but if you make the choice, then the more, it's so funny, when someone asked me when I was trying to inculcate Shabbat the first time my daughter went away to ballet camp, and her roommate said, how can you give up so much? I said, oh, but you don't realize how much you have until you don't do these things. And then you actually have this incredible love.
Then you realize that it's not about, it's about the spirit, which can never be enslaved, right? So on one hand, we will never be enslaved again to that degree. And that's why the Jewish spirit always comes up. And then we can take that to the next level when we're not being, it's always the mechanism is that it's more challenging to connect when we're not being challenged.
Yeah.
That's kind of the observation that we have. Because of the way that we're wired with the natural love coming out in fight or flight, when we're not in fight or flight is kind of where the real work is. And that's why the Rebbe was so proud of the Lubavitcher, the seventh Lubavitcher Rebbe who lived in Brooklyn, was so proud of our generation, because we live in a time of prosperity and the 90s and 80s relative peace, right? And we lived in a time that we weren't being squeezed and challenged and persecuted, and yet we found a way to make Judaism, and we were actively, he was so proud of all the Jewish identity and the Jewish pride that was going on, and he was huge advocate for all that positive Jewish association, because that's the work. The work is how do we identify and how do we operate from a place of freedom when our freedom isn't being challenged. True freedom. Because we know from the stories of our heroes throughout all of our history, as recent as the hostages, that true freedom comes from, like Shelley said, our connection with Hashem. And that's why, who am I to say that's why, but I have noticed that all of the hostages that I have heard speak talk about this spirit that kept them through, this connection with Hashem that nobody could take away from them. It was the only true lowest common denominator, and they always had it. They always had their true freedom with them. That's the Jewish spirit. That's the free spirit. So then we talk about, this is a very Passover conversation. We'll talk about it again then, but how we operate from this free spirit in a free time. And that's when we have our daily life and our iPhones and our, and all the distractions and everything that's going on. If we can be in touch with the free spirit throughout our mundane, daily, normal lives, we are operating from a very intense place of freedom. Does that make sense? It's the same lowest common denominator throughout. The question is, do we feel compelled to access that? So there is a prayer that helps us access that. And that's why it's a twice daily prayer. And that we're going to bring all back together. So we have this idea of freedom. What is at the core of our freedom? Our connection with Hashem. That is started, like it kind of broke forth with the going out of Egypt because of this taking us out of such a slave mentality and raising us up with this relationship with the Torah that was given to us for the first time officially. But every time we activate that freedom core within us, we are activating the mirror love because it's one and the same. Hashem taking us out of Egypt was the love that he showed us. And our meeting Hashem and reciprocating with our willing, and all it is really willingness. Our willingness and interest in being part of that relationship is the reciprocation. And then culminated and enacted with the mitzvah and the Torah. So every single day, twice a day, we get the opportunity, honestly, throughout our prayers, which this chapter brings out, but specifically with the prayer of Shema. Shema is like the epitome of this experience, because we say, Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. When we say Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem is our God, we're coming out of denial and we're just opening ourselves up to receive this relationship. Like we said, it's naturally there, whether or not we're aware of it. We could consciously block it out, which is exactly what we're not doing when we say the Shema. We're being very conscious about receiving. Just by recognizing that when we say God is our God, we're saying that we're consenting to this relationship. Like we're here for it. He's our God, right? He's not a God. And just like, we say God of Abraham, God of Isaac, right? Because they were the chariots. Just like he's God of Abraham, he's our God too. Same. Abraham started it, but we get it too.
Wonderful.
Right? So this just is happening. The beauty of this mirror love is that it's not really dependent on meditation so much. It's really just like a simple flip of an awareness to just like tune into a relationship that is active and there.
Present.
Omnipresent. Beautiful. And when we say in the Sim Shalom, are you familiar with the Sim Shalom prayer in the Amidah? Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. You know that song? We were taught that in school. You know that one?
Yeah.
And it ends with Oseh Shalom. That's the same prayer. So it's the one part of it is Ki Be'or Panecha. It's actually the top of this next page. Ki Be'or Panecha Natata Lanu Hashem Elokeinu. Part of that prayer, it's like it's really all over the prayers. This relationship is like, once you tune into it, it's everywhere. So with the light of your face, you have given us, God, your God. In other words, you gave us yourself. With your light, you have given us. Natata lanu. You're expecting it to say, you have given us something, the Torah, which is God, but it's more direct than that in this prayer. It says, you have given us yourself. That's like the biggest outpouring of love that one can have, right? What's the greatest intimacy? When one gives of themselves, their most vulnerable, deepest, intimate self. That's real deep connection. And then actually that same prayer continues, Torah Chaim, the living Torah, because it really is one and the same. The Torah is really God's way of giving us the ability to enact or to express that connection.
That's why Shema has the words with all your soul, all your heart.
And all your might, yes. And the end of Shema talks about the going out of Egypt.
Right.
because it is the same. It's all part of the same idea. This what we keep coming back to in all of our prayers is, and why do we keep mentioning the leaving Egypt in all of our prayers? It keeps coming up, by the way. It's a huge theme of prayer, is leaving Egypt, that we left Egypt, that we left Egypt. And when you look at it like in a black and white linear timeline way, it feels a little bit excessive. Like, okay, so we left Egypt, all right? There are other things happened too, you know? Why do we keep coming back to that? And the reason is because of this. Because leaving Egypt wasn't just a one-time kindness that God did for us. It was a change in status that is a forever thing and a constant thing. And honestly, a constant effort that we still re-access and re-access. But the reason why we're able to access it with a little bit of work is because we already have it. We are there. We are freed. We have this relationship. Can we take this relationship here? Can we, have, relationships that are true and there can be taken to various levels. Even a relationship, of course a romantic relationship, but even a relationship with a child and a parent, you can have, a baseline relationship, and then you can really work on your relationship and have a really beautiful, flourishing, warm, effusive relationship. Yeah. So that's really the whole chapter. That's, to be honest. But if you have any questions, we can continue to discuss.
I just want to add that it's also, I've learned from many that it's also about, we have to, civilizations come and they ascend and then they descend. And that's the way it is. That's out of Ecclesiastics, right? But by the same token, that if we actually do remember the birth of our nation and who we are, what we are about, which is this connection with Hashem, then on a daily basis we're reminded, and we're much less apt to take for granted who we are, and we're more apt to remember where we belong. And because it's human nature, it's like, we take things for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, we're wired to do that, so that there's some challenge in this process, right? Because we're talking about this chapter like it's so easy, but actually we all know that it's not easy, and that's why we come back and we remember, oh right, oh yes. But if it were easy, then we wouldn't need this book of the Tanya to show us how to, to show us how to do it and to remind us, inspire us, right? We wouldn't. Right. The human condition is that it isn't easy.
It always resonated with me at Passover when that phrase, that as if you were led out of Egypt, and I was like, me? I'm a slave in Egypt? Wow, even as a little kid. And then every year having that reinforced, I wonder if that sort of builds resilience, because you imagine yourself just for a second,
Even empathy.
Empathy, but also like grit, like, okay, I was a slave in Egypt, me, like, I live in this nice middle-class family, and it's the 80s, and there's nothing to worry about, but I was a slave in Egypt. And so then you imagine just for a second that you connect with those Jews, that your people, and you
and
go,
it causes you to
okay,
put
I
yourself
can get
in
out
there.
of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that builds resilience for like, I'm addicted to my iPhone. Wait, I can get out of this. Because I was a slave in Egypt.
Yeah.
And I got
Literally.
out of that. Not on my own, with God's help.
That is beautiful. I mean, that is so illustrative. And that you were thinking about that as a young child is kind of adorable. Precocious.
Well, I had some difficult family dynamics that I needed to survive.
So this was inspiring for you.
One of many families.
One of many families. I know I was not alone in that. And and it wasn't as bad as some people have to deal with, but it was hard on me because I'm a sensitive person. And I was like, okay, I can get out of this.
And I
I
really feel like that is the human condition, that everybody gets this cocktail. It's like this perfect storm where it's like really, really, really hard, specifically for you because of your nature and your everything, but also exactly the kind of thing that you really could accomplish. You know, like it's
Right.
yours. It's
Right.
you. And there's a midrash that talks about it. I think it's other cultures as well, that like if you were given the choice between other people's life circumstances without you knowing, you pick your own, right? Because it's that like sweet spot that God engineers for us. It's like the perfect set of challenges that are so hard yet ours. You know.
Well, we had a woman, a very elderly Jewish woman in Lichtenberg when I came as a young bride to Lichtenberg. And she always used to say, if God would tell you, put all your troubles in a suitcase, put it on the table, and you can choose somebody else's problem, do it. Everybody took their own problems back because they were familiar with their own problems.
Yeah.
And I always remember her saying it. But
Yeah.
it's so
That's
true.
exactly what this
It's
exactly
so
the same
true.
analogy.
You know that saying, like God gives you what you can handle?
Handle.
Is that
Yeah,
a
yeah,
Jewish idea?
It
I
is.
thought that was a Christian idea
I
for a
also
long
thought
time.
it was
Thank
Christian.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's also
all
in
religions.
other,
They
in
also-
other
maybe
all
cultures.
religions.
It definitely is a very Jewish value.
But I like
It's
to
actually-
bump against it.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, because it's not meant to be. Remember, we learned about suffering, right? It's very, very, very important not to whitewash suffering, right? Just because you can handle it doesn't mean
Make it
it's
okay.
you're just good, and you're just gonna. It's I don't mean it can be used as as an excuse not to have empathy.
Wow. That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
very powerful.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that's why we have the Jewish nuance.
Don't whitewash.
Right? And I think that a huge strength of our tradition is nuance. Is that we have everything on both sides. We've got this aspect and we've got the opposite. And then we've got to make sense of
Well, and
It's a good
also,
thing you didn't hear the language up there.
oh no, we couldn't hear that on this side. Sorry, I had to hear that.
Well, there's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
You heard what you had to hear.
We're talking about this in here, and then you hear that out there. That brings me to the other idea of the Egypt story. I thought one of the really important tenets is treat the stranger as
You would want
as
to.
you would want to be treated. Because we went through that and saw, so like, it's unacceptable when we see enslaved people today or
And
years
that's
ago.
really what empathy is all about, is that it's not I'm, better than you and therefore I'm going to feel bad for you. It's actually I get it. Right?
Because I was a slave in Egypt.
Right, because we've all experienced and we can really find empathy, I think. I mean, maybe I'm too young to say this, but I have found that you can find empathy in most situations. You can find a time that you felt, I don't know about similar, because you don't want to also minimize whatever they're going through, but you can find it inside of yourself,
I think the challenge is when someone is somehow sharing their difficult moment through hatred.
Yes.
I think that is really, really hard to find, and you have to be sure that you have a boundary, so
That's the word I was gonna use.
You protect the sanctity of your own being,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't give so much out of your well. You only take the overflow. I'm sorry, it's a Sufi saying, but you only take the overflow from your well, and you don't dig into the source of your true hydration. You have to be really careful about that.
Absolutely, and that was really important because as I was talking about empathy, there really is, you need to be careful not to be an empath, to where the point is that you are bleeding,
Right.
because you need to actually make sure that you've got boundaries are so important, and you need to make sure that you are intact, and you're finding empathy from a very intact place.
And you hold on to your power.
Yes.
You can't give away all your power,
Yes.
because then you don't have any power to help a person.
Exactly.
Or yourself.
And that's our nuance, and that's exactly what nuance is the ability to understand when, to what degree. That doesn't cancel out the other thing, even though they're opposites. Being able to hold all that at the same time, yes, empathy, but also, yes, boundaries, right? And finding exactly how that applies to you and in what situation is a nuanced work.
boundaries become clearer for us because we're able, it's strange, it's like you're saying the words of Torah, but you're also finding your own boundaries. You're able to
Because you're
define
finding
them
your
better.
truth.
That's right.
Because the Torah is God's essence, which is our essence too, our neshama. It's our truth. And when we find our truth, everything kind of, it's easier to find where to put the boundaries. It's easier to find who I am, where I am. Yes. And I was actually thinking, did you want to say?
No, please.
No, go ahead.
You were thinking what?
I was going to change the conversation.
Oh. I was just thinking about how Torah also gives us like the ritualistic opportunity to continuously connect. And I think that's pretty exceptional. I was thinking about with Passover, I mean we do it every year and we do the same rituals every year and I hosted a Seder for non-Jewish friends one year, and it like reignited my just connection to my everything actually,
Really?
because they had never been given the opportunity to connect in a ritualistic way with these themes, and so many of them had similar stories in their backgrounds. African Americans whose families had also experienced slavery, and immigrant families who had to leave their homes, and so there was something that resonated with each individual, but yet they had never connected in that way, in such an intentional way. And they said, like, well, what if we got together every year and talked about what it means to have been slaves and now be free? What would that do for our community? What would that do for our connection to ourselves and our histories and our ancestors? And so Torah really gives us that, and storytelling and ritual gives us that continued opportunity.
That is exactly it. And thank you for sharing that experience that you had to recognize this gift. And when we teach kids, I keep bringing that up. I guess I'm in that world, but we teach them Hashem gave us a present. Do you know what it was? He gave us the Torah, right? And we're teaching them the essence of it all, like that the Torah is a gift. It's a gift. How do we embody? How do we express? How do we take our connection? We have this like beautiful emotion of connection. What do you do with it? And when you're experiencing an intense feeling of connection with a loved one, a lot of times we're driven to express it. Like, what do I do with this feeling? And we're given what to do with it. So I was thinking it's been a while. I did not prepare a meditation, but I'm gonna go out of my comfort zone because I think it would be really nice to tune in and meditate a little bit about our gift.
And the
So.
gift is Wendy's birthday.
Mazel tov, Wendy. Thank you for sharing, because
I didn't share.
no, thank you, Shelley, for sharing about Wendy. And Wendy, thank you for coming on your birthday and sharing your special energy with us. Because when you're born, your energy, the energy of why your soul was needed to be here in this earth, is on show. It's expressed. It's your energy shines. It's called Mazalo Gover. Your energy is shining.
Happy birthday.
Absolutely.
Yom Haledet Sameach.
Yes.
So we can all put our feet on the ground and close our eyes. And we can invite the breath of our life into our bodies. The life that we were given to live. And with each breath, let yourself feel invigorated. Let yourself feel the energy of your life fill your body. And with each breath, picture yourself, imagine yourself opening up to receive love. It is being given to you, sent to you, shared with you, and with each breath, you receive it. You might tune in to your sensation, the sensation you feel in your body as it receives this powerful, infinite love. Where can you feel the love? This love is your life. Your spark, your spirit. And allow this infinite love to take up space within you and to be felt within you. Maybe you can sense yourself feeling a sensation of filling up. And you can sense maybe your heart filling and filling with more love and more love as it is being poured into you by the source of love, straight to you. And maybe as you feel your heart fill up, you can start to sense your heart overflow and shine forth love and mirror love. You are so full of love. Your entire being is love. You can do nothing else than to shine it and reflect it backward and outward. Maybe you can visualize a shine or a glisten as the love takes on a light form. As you feel yourself in a cycle and a cocoon of love, reverberating from Hashem back to your heart, up towards Hashem, back to your heart. And with each cycle of reverberation, maybe you can sense your love expand further into the atmosphere. Creeping your love outward, touching your surrounding more and more with your love, Hashem's love, singular love, and its magic. And this love is always with you. You're feeling it now. You're surrounded by its glow. The glow is always within you. All the time. And maybe you can start to bring yourself back to your physical existence while holding on to your love. Maybe you can picture bringing your love back inside of yourself while leaving its effects and its residue out in the world. You can simultaneously take your love and hold it in your hands. And maybe you can even bring your hands together and bring gently and lovingly, bring the love back into your heart. It's like a little diamond inside of you that shines forth always, wherever you take it, all the time. And that little diamond is super duper powerful, can be shined and expanded to everything you touch, because it's always alive within you. And when you feel that your diamond of love is safe and cuddled within yourself, when you feel ready to open your eyes, knowing that that love is not going anywhere, then you can slowly open your eyes and feel embraced.
Go to sleep.
Thank Thank you for meditating with me. I wasn't sure where that was going to go.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you,
I feel like I can do the day now.
Yeah.